The desperate plea. Ethan's boots crunched over broken metal and gray dust as he walked through the empty streets of Kareth. Once, this planet city had bright lights, busy markets, and laughter. Now, after the war between humans and Carithians, only silence remained. Black smoke drifted from ruined buildings. The sky was always gray here, as if even the sun had lost hope. Ethan was a human engineer, sent by the peace group to help repair what was left. He had already fixed power lines and water pipes, but he knew most people were too scared to come out. He was tired, hungry, and lonely. He missed Earth, but his mission was important: help anyone who survived, no matter if they were human or alien. Suddenly, Ethan heard footsteps, quick, light, and nervous. He stopped and listened. The footsteps ran closer. He turned around, expecting another soldier or maybe a scavenger. But instead, a small child ran out from behind a cracked wall. The child looked about 8 years old, but she was clearly not human. Her skin was a soft silver color that shimmered even in the dust. Her hair was white and floated gently around her face. Her eyes were large and bright green, shining with tears. She wore torn clothes, too big for her small body. She looked up at Ethan, scared and desperate. "Please, human, help me," she cried, her voice shaking. "Please, marry my mom." "She's all I have left." Ethan was shocked. For a moment, he did not know what to say. Why would a child say something like that to a stranger? He knelt down to her level and tried to speak gently. "What's your name?" Ethan asked. "I'm Mira," she replied, wiping her tears. "My mom is hurt. She can't move. Everyone else is gone. Please, she needs you. I need you." Ethan's heart ached. He could see how scared Mira was. He wanted to help, but he was just an engineer, not a hero or a doctor. Still, he could not walk away. "Where is your mom?" he asked softly. Mira grabbed his hand and pulled him along the broken street. She moved quickly, always looking over her shoulder, as if something was chasing them. Ethan kept up, his mind racing with questions. Why would an alien child ask him to marry her mother? Was it a trick? Or was she just scared and alone? They turned into a dark alley, stepping over broken furniture and smashed glass. Ethan noticed strange shadows moving in the corners, maybe animals, maybe people. The city was full of dangers. Mira stopped in front of a small broken house. The door was hanging off its hinges. Inside, it was cold and dark. Mira led Ethan. Inside, the air smelled of metal and old fire. In one corner, lying on a thin mattress, was an alien woman. Her skin was the same silver as Mira's, but her face was tired and pale. Her arm was wrapped in dirty cloth, and she was shivering. She looked up at Ethan with fear and confusion. "Mama, I found a human," Mira cried, running to her mother's side. "He can help us." Ethan stepped closer. He saw blood on the woman's arm and bruises on her face. He knelt down and opened his small medical kit. He spoke gently. "My name is Ethan. I want to help. Can I look at your arm?" The woman nodded slowly, watching him with wary eyes. Mira held her mother's other hand, whispering, "He's nice, Mama. He's not like the others." Ethan cleaned the wound and put on a clean bandage. He shared his water and a small piece of bread. The woman ate slowly, her hands shaking. After a few minutes, Ethan finally asked, "Why did Mira ask me to marry you?" The woman tried to smile, but her eyes filled with tears. "My name is Lyra," she whispered. "After the war, it is dangerous for a single mother here. Scavengers attack us, take what little we have. If Myra thinks you are her father, maybe people will leave us alone. Maybe they will be afraid to hurt us." Ethan nodded, understanding now. This was not a real marriage. Proposal, it was a desperate wish for safety and family. He looked at Mira, who watched him with hope. He saw in her face what he had once seen in his own long ago, when he had lost his parents in another war. Outside, a loud noise made them all jump. Shadows moved past the broken window, Mira ran to Ethan and grabbed his arm. Lyra whispered, "They come at night, the bad ones. Please, can you stay?" Ethan looked at the scared mother and daughter. He could feel his own heart pounding. He had only planned to fix machines, not save lives. But now, he knew he could not walk away. As night fell and dangers grew, Ethan promised, "I will stay." In the ruins of Kerith, a strange new family was about to begin. The wounded mother. The night felt longer than any Ethan had known. He sat beside Lyra's mattress, listening to every strange sound outside. Each time the wind rattled the broken window, Mira squeezed his hand tighter. Shadows flickered on the wall, making them all jump, but Ethan stayed. He watched over Lyra as she slept, her breathing shallow and quick. She woke often, shivering and whispering in a language he didn't know. Mira wiped her mother's forehead with an old cloth. She looked at Ethan with eyes full of hope and fear. Morning finally arrived, cold and gray. Ethan opened the last of his energy bars and split it into 3 pieces. Lyra tried to give hers to Myra, but Ethan gently insisted she eat. "You need your strength," he said, his voice soft. While they ate, Ethan looked around the ruined house. There were no windows, only empty frames. The walls were cracked and the roof leaked water from last night's rain. It was hard to believe anyone could call this place home. When Lyra tried to sit up, she gasped in pain. Ethan checked her arm. The wound was deep, but at least it wasn't infected yet. He used more of his bandages and gave her a pain tablet. Myra watched him closely, memorizing every move. "You are very brave," Ethan told Mira, handing her a cup of water. "Not many children could do what you did last night." Mira looked down. "I'm scared all the time," she whispered. "But if I'm not brave, Mama will be alone." Lyra touched her daughter's cheek. "She is my light," Lyra said. Quietly, "I would be lost without her." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He remembered how he once felt lost after his own parents died. Maybe that's why he couldn't leave these two alone. Suddenly there was a noise outside, a heavy object scraping against stone. Mira jumped up, her small body tense. "Someone is out there," she whispered. Ethan motioned for them to stay quiet. He moved to the doorway and peeked outside. A group of 4 aliens, bigger and rougher looking than Lyra or Mira, were searching nearby houses. They carried sticks and rusty metal pipes. One of them pointed at Lyra's home. Ethan's mind raced. He had no weapons, only his tools. He looked at Mira and Lyra, then back at the door. The group outside started arguing among themselves. One wanted to enter, but another shook his head. Ethan took a deep breath and quietly pushed a broken chair against the door, making it look like a barricade. He whispered, "If they come in, hide under the bed. I'll try to talk to them." He waited, heart pounding, as the group finally walked away. Their voices faded down the street. Mira let out a shaky breath and hugged her mother. Ethan knelt beside them, relief washing over him. Lyra looked at Ethan with new respect. "Most humans would not stay," she said. "Why do you help us?" Ethan thought about his answer. "War makes enemies out of strangers," he said. "But after the fighting, we can choose to be different. I want to help because no one should." "Be alone," Mira nodded, her face serious. "Will you stay until Mama is better?" Ethan smiled gently. "I promise." As the sun rose higher, Ethan decided to make the house safer. He searched the ruins nearby and found a bent metal sheet and a few nails. Using his tools, he patched part of the roof and fixed the broken door so it could lock again. Mira watched him work, sometimes handing him nails or holding the flashlight. While he worked, Lyra tried to stand, but pain forced her back down. She watched her daughter and the human, her eyes softening. She started to trust Ethan, seeing how kind he was to Myra. Later, Ethan shared stories about his home. He told them about blue skies and green trees on Earth, and about how he became An engineer. Mira listened with wide eyes, imagining a world without war. Lyra smiled, the first real smile Ethan had seen on her face. Just as they started to feel safe, a loud bang echoed from the other end of the street. Mira ran to Ethan, grabbing his hand. Lyra sat up, fear returning to her eyes. Through a crack in the wall, they saw a small fire burning in a nearby house. More scavengers had arrived, searching for food and anything they could steal. The city was not safe, not for humans or aliens. Ethan knew they could not stay hidden forever. He started making plans. They needed more supplies, a safer place, and maybe, just maybe, some friends who could help Dot as darkness fell again. Ethan sat beside Lyra and Mira, watching over them as they slept. He promised himself he would protect them, no matter what happened. For the first time in a long while, he felt like he belonged somewhere, even if it was in a ruined house. On a lonely alien world. Dot, and as the night grew quiet, Mira whispered in her sleep, "Thank you, human. Please don't leave us." Unwanted visitors' night fell heavy over the ruined city. The wind howled through empty streets, carrying the distant echo of voices and footsteps. Inside the broken house, Ethan tried to rest, but his eyes kept opening at every sound. Mira lay, curled up next to her mother, clutching a soft piece of fabric that had once been a doll. Lyra's breathing was slow and uneven, but she managed a weak smile whenever Ethan checked on her. Ethan sat near the door, making sure his small toolkit was ready. He wished for a weapon, but all he had were some sharp pliers and a wrench. Still, he promised himself he would protect Mira and Lyra no matter what. Suddenly, the quiet was broken by loud shouts outside. Angry voices, rough and hungry, came closer. Shadows danced on the cracked wall as someone kicked at the broken door. "Open up! We know you're in there!" A deep voice growled. Ethan's heart raced. Mira woke, her eyes wide with fear. Lyra sat up quickly, her face pale. Ethan whispered, "Hide under the bed. Don't make a sound." Mira crawled to her mother and pulled her down to the dark space under the old mattress. Ethan moved to the door and pressed his back against it, trying to stay calm. The group outside kicked again. "You have food and medicine. Give it to us or we'll break the door." Thinking quickly, Ethan grabbed an old metal rod and wedged it under the door handle, buying a few more seconds. He shouted in a strong voice, "Go away. There are more of us inside. If you try to break in, you'll be sorry." There was a pause. Outside, the voices argued, confused. Ethan kept his voice loud and steady. "We have weapons. If you break in, you'll regret it." From under the bed, Mira watched Ethan's feet. She covered her mouth to keep from crying out. Lyra wrapped an arm around her daughter, trying to keep her quiet and safe. Outside, one of the scavengers tried the handle and found it stuck. "Maybe they really do have weapons," another muttered. They began to argue among themselves, voices fading and rising in the night. For several long minutes, Ethan listened, hardly breathing. Finally, after what felt like forever, the sound of footsteps faded. The visitors had left, at least for now. Ethan slumped against the wall, relief washing over him. He crawled to the bed and gently whispered, "It's okay. They're gone for now." Mira crawled out first, her face streaked with tears. She threw her arms around Ethan, holding tight. Lyra followed slowly, her movements weak from pain. "You saved us," Mira said softly, her voice shaking. "You're really brave, human." Ethan smiled, though his hands were still trembling. "Sometimes you just have to sound braver than you feel," he said. "Let's make sure they can't come back easily." The rest of the night Ethan barely slept. He dragged broken furniture against the door, stacked heavy boxes by the window, and set up a small noise trap using some wire and old cans. Every time something clinked or rattled, he was ready. But the scavengers did not return. In the morning, the city was silent again. Ethan and Mira crept outside, careful not to be seen. They looked for food, water, and anything useful. Mira found a can of fruit stuck in a drain, and Ethan discovered a cracked mirror, which he placed to watch the street from inside their hideout. On their way back, they heard quiet footsteps behind them. Mira clung to Ethan's arm. They ducked behind a pile of rubble. Peeking out, Ethan saw a young alien boy, thin and scared, looking for scraps. Ethan called softly, "Hey, are you hungry?" The boy flinched, but nodded. Mira handed him half of her fruit. The boy thanked them with wide, surprised eyes and ran away. Mira watched him go, her own stomach rumbling. "Maybe we made a friend," she whispered. Back inside, Ethan fixed the bandage on Lyra's arm. She looked at him with gratitude and a touch of worry. "You should leave, Ethan. We are only trouble for you. The scavengers will return." Ethan shook his head. "I made a promise. I'm not leaving. Not now." Mira smiled. She grabbed Ethan's hand, holding it tightly. "Does this mean you'll really stay with us, for good?" Ethan looked at the hopeful child and then at Lyra, who nodded softly. He felt something strange and warm in his chest, a sense of family, even among strangers. But as the day faded, Ethan saw movement on the rooftop across the street. Someone was watching them with a broken telescope. Ethan knew the peace would not last. The scavengers would come again, and next time, they might not be so easily fooled. That night, Ethan lay awake, planning new ways to keep his small family safe. Wondered if other humans might help, or if they would only bring more danger. He promised himself that he would find a way to protect Mira and Lyra, no matter what it cost him. And so, in the heart of a broken world, a human, an alien mother, and her daughter faced the coming storm together. A fragile family for the next few days. Life inside the ruined house settled into a strange, careful routine. Ethan, Lyra, and Mira lived together like a small family, always on alert, but finding moments of peace in the middle of chaos. Outside, the city was full of danger. But inside, hope was beginning to grow. Each morning, Ethan woke early. He checked the street through the cracked mirror he'd set up as a lookout. He scanned for movement, watching for scavengers or other threats. Mira joined him quietly, carrying her soft cloth doll, her big green eyes wide and curious. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked every day. Ethan always answered the same. "If they do, we'll be ready, I promise." He kept his promise by working hard. With Lyra's gentle advice, Ethan repaired more of the house. He used metal scraps and plastic sheets from nearby ruins to patch the roof, stopping the cold wind and rain. He found a broken lamp and fixed it, so they had light at night. He built simple alarms out of cans and string, so they'd know if anyone tried to break in again. Mira watched everything he did, helping when she could. She collected nails, passed tools, and even learned to tie knots for the alarms. Sometimes she pretended to be an engineer like Ethan, her face lit with a rare smile. Lyra grew stronger every day. With rest, clean bandages, and real food, her wounds began to heal. She moved slowly, but she was determined to help. She found an old blanket and made it into a curtain for their door, giving them a little more privacy and warmth. As the house grew safer, so did the feeling between the three of them. At night, they sat together and told stories. Mira loved hearing about Earth, about blue oceans, green forests, and animals she had never seen. In return, Lyra told Ethan about the beauty of Kerith before the war, its crystal rivers, glowing plants, and the sky that turned pink at sunset. Sometimes, the stories made them all forget the world outside, but fear never disappeared completely. One evening, as the sun set behind gray clouds, Mira's voice trembled. "Ethan, what will happen to us if you leave?" Ethan looked at Lyra and then at Mira. "I'm not leaving," he said softly. "You're my family now. We'll stay together." Lyra reached out, her silver hand resting gently on Ethan's arm. For the first time, there was no fear in her eyes, only trust. But danger was never far away. Late one night, the sound of hurried footsteps woke Ethan. He peeked outside and saw the boy Mira had given fruit to, running down the street with two older aliens chasing him. The boy tripped and fell, shouting for help. Without thinking, Ethan rushed outside, Mira right behind him. "Wait here," he called over his shoulder, but she was too worried to listen. Ethan reached the boy and stood between him and the angry scavengers. "Leave him alone," Ethan shouted. The older aliens snarled, surprised to see a human protecting one of their own. "This is our street," one hissed. "Humans don't belong here." Ethan didn't move. "He's just a child. He's hungry and scared. Let him go." For a moment, no one moved. Then, to Ethan's surprise, Mira stepped in front of him. She faced the scavengers, shaking but brave. "We help each other here," she said. "That's what families do." The scavengers glanced at each other, then at Ethan, whose eyes were cold and determined. Finally, they turned and left, muttering threats as they disappeared into the night. Ethan helped the boy up. His name was Taro. He was scared, but grateful. Ethan brought him inside, sharing food and letting him sleep in a corner. The next morning, Lyra praised Myra's courage. "You were brave, my little light. You stood up for what's right." Mira blushed and hugged her mother. "I just did what Ethan would do." Ethan smiled, feeling a warm pride. He realized that, together, they were stronger than they ever could be alone. As the days passed, more small acts of kindness changed their lives. Lyra taught Ethan how to use local plants for medicine. Mira showed Taro how to set alarms. Ethan shared his stories and hoped that soon others in the city heard about their small, safe house. Some came asking for help. Others came just to listen to stories and share a meal. Slowly, trust began to grow, even among those who had once been enemies. Still, the dangers outside never vanished. Scavengers watched from shadows, and sometimes stones hit their windows at night. But inside the patched house, Ethan, Lyra, Mira, and now Taro began to believe that family could be more than just blood. It could be built, piece by piece, by anyone brave enough to care. One night, as rain tapped softly on the new roof, Mira whispered, "Thank you for choosing us, Ethan. I don't feel alone anymore." Ethan squeezed her hand and glanced at Lyra, who smiled back in the soft light. In a world still broken, a fragile family was growing strong. The threat returns. The days in the patched-up house slowly turned into weeks. Ethan, Lyra, Mira, and Taro found a rhythm, a fragile peace inside a dangerous city. Every small victory, like finding a hidden can of soup or fixing a leak, felt like a celebration. Ethan taught Mira and Taro how to use his tools. Lyra grew stronger each day, her wound healing more, and even her laughter sometimes filled the rooms. But no peace lasts forever. One morning, as a pale sun rose over the ruins, Taro ran inside, breathless and scared. "They're coming back," he whispered, voice shaking. "The scavengers, the ones with red bandanas. I saw them at the edge of the street. They have weapons now." Ethan's stomach tightened. He had hoped their bluff weeks ago would keep them safe, but now the real test was here. He quickly checked the alarms, string traps and tin cans, the locked door, the mirror to watch the road. Everyone inside. No one goes out. "Lyra, take Mira and Taro to the back room," Ethan said quietly. Mira's eyes were wide with fear. "Will they hurt us?" Ethan knelt to her level. "Not if I can help it. I won't let them take our home." Minutes passed, each one longer than the last. Shadows moved outside the window. Ethan saw 5 figures, faces hidden with red cloth, moving slowly toward the door. One of them carried a long pipe. Another had something that looked like a broken gun. A hard knock rattled the door. "Open up. We know you're in there," a harsh voice called. Give us your food or we burn this place down." Ethan stood tall and called back, "There's nothing here worth your trouble. Move on," they laughed cruelly. "We know you have food and a human helping aliens. You're not welcome here. Open the door or we'll smash it down." Ethan's mind raced. He noticed the scavengers had brought bottles. He knew they might set fire to the house. He needed to distract them, fast. Go to the back window and throw out whatever you can, pots, bottles, anything that makes noise. Ethan whispered to Lyra. She understood, nodding quickly. In the back room, Mira and Taro hurried to gather old cans and broken dishes. The scavengers started kicking the door, yelling louder. Ethan grabbed a wrench, his only weapon, and took a deep breath. Suddenly, a loud crash came from the back alley as Lyra tossed out a box of glass bottles. The noise startled the scavengers. "They're escaping from the back." One shouted. The group split up, some running to the back of the house. Ethan knew this was their chance. He opened the front door just enough to toss out a flash of light, a small battery and wire trick he built, which sparked loudly and smoked. Shouts rang out. Two of the scavengers stumbled back, coughing and cursing. Ethan used the chaos to run outside and grab a metal rod, waving it like a sword. "Stay away," he yelled, trying to sound braver than he felt. The others hesitated, unsure. In that moment, Mira and Taro threw more bottles from the back window, making even more noise. The scavengers, now confused and worried, finally began to run away, shouting threats as they disappeared down the street. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. He hurried back inside, locking the door and checking on everyone. Lyra hugged Mira tight. Taro's hands shook, but he tried to smile bravely. "Are we safe?" Mira asked, her voice a whisper. "For now," Ethan said, pulling her into a hug. "You were all so brave." Lyra looked at Ethan with tears in her eyes. "You could have left us. You could have run away. Why did you risk your life?" Ethan was quiet for a moment. He looked at the three faces, frightened, tired, but full of hope. "Because I promised," he said softly, "and because I care about you. All of you." The rest of the day was spent cleaning up and reinforcing the doors and windows even more. Ethan knew the scavengers would not forget this, but he also knew something had changed. The family had faced real danger together, and they had not broken. That night, Mira crawled into Ethan's lap as he sat by the patched window. "Do families always have to be born together?" she asked. Ethan shook his head, stroking her hair. "Sometimes families are chosen. Sometimes we find each other because we need each other." Outside, thunder rumbled over the broken city. Inside, despite their fear and the coming storm, Ethan and his new family stayed close, drawing strength from each other. But in the shadows, the scavengers gathered, angry at their defeat, planning their next move. The threat was not over. The hardest choice was still ahead, and yet, in the small house, hope refused to die. The decision storm clouds gathered over Kerith, turning the sky dark in the middle of the day. Heavy rain hammered the ruined city, filling the streets with muddy rivers. Inside their small patched house, Ethan and his found family sat close together, listening to the storm and to every distant shout that carried on the wind. For days, no one left the house. The group stayed quiet, speaking only in whispers. Ethan worried that the scavengers would return any moment, maybe with more people and worse weapons. He kept busy by checking the doors and windows, fixing anything that looked weak. Still, fear sat in his chest like a heavy stone. One evening, as the rain finally slowed, Taro brought news. He had heard from another child that the scavengers were not just angry, they were furious. "They say the human has made traitors of the aliens," Taro said, eyes wide with worry. "Some humans are also angry. They don't want you helping." U.S. Ethan understood what this meant. If he stayed, the danger would only grow. He looked at Lyra and Mira. "You should go somewhere safer," he said quietly. "I can lead the scavengers away. Maybe if I'm gone, they'll leave you alone." "No," Myra cried, grabbing Ethan's hand. "You promised you would never leave." Lyra shook her head, her silver eyes shining with tears. "You are one of us now. If you go, we will not be safe. You made us a family. We don't want to lose that hope." Ethan sat down hard. He had never wanted to cause harm. All he'd ever wanted was to help, but now he realized just how much he cared for them. He looked at Taro, the newest member of their fragile group, and saw the same fear. That night, the house was quiet except for the sound of the wind. Mira could not sleep. She crept over to Ethan, sitting beside him in the dim light. "Please marry my mom. Human," she whispered, her voice trembling. "If you are really family, maybe no one will try to take you away. Maybe they'll let us be happy." Ethan was surprised. "Myra, you don't have to worry. You and your mom are already my family." Mira shook her head. "But not everyone sees us that way. Here, family means safety. If you stay, really stay, they'll believe it." Ethan thought about this. For aliens on Kareth, a human who called an alien his wife and daughter might be left alone out of respect or fear. He realized this was Myra's desperate way to keep them together. The next morning, Ethan made a choice. He gathered everyone together in the small kitchen. Rain dripped from the ceiling, but inside, the light felt warm. "I want to stay with you," Ethan said, his voice strong. "If being your family keeps you safe, then I want that. Lyra, I can't promise everything will be easy. But I promise I will never leave you and Mira." Lyra looked at Ethan for a long time, then she nodded. "We accept you," she said softly. "Not just because we need safety, but because we care about you." Taro grinned. "Does this mean we're all one family now?" Ethan smiled and nodded. Mira threw her arms around his neck, tears of joy in her eyes. "You're really staying. You're really ours," she whispered. That day, they made their own simple ceremony. Lyra and Ethan stood together, and Mira spoke the words she remembered from her father. "Now we promise to protect each other. No matter what," Taro clapped. And even Lyra laughed for the first time in weeks. As word spread through the ruined city, something strange happened. Some neighbors looked at Ethan with suspicion, but others, those who had seen the kindness in the patched house, came with small gifts. One old alien brought a loaf of bread. A human woman, limping from an old wound, offered a handful of wild herbs. Their small act of unity was like a light in the darkness. Still, not everyone was happy. The scavengers heard about the ceremony and grew even angrier. Now they talked of destroying the house and making an example of the traitors. That night, Ethan sat awake, staring into the darkness. He was scared, but he felt something stronger than fear, a sense of belonging, and a promise to fight for his new family. Lyra sat beside him. "Thank you for choosing us, Ethan. You have given us hope. Even if danger comes, we will face it together." Ethan nodded, squeezing her hand. "Together," he agreed. Outside, thunder rumbled over the broken city, but inside, the light of their new family burned bright. Tomorrow would bring danger, but for tonight, hope and love were stronger than fear. A new beginning. Dawn broke quietly over the ruined city of Kareth. The storm had passed, but puddles still glistened between the shattered stones. Inside the small house, Ethan, Lyra, Mira, and Taro huddled close, waiting for whatever the day might bring. Their new life as a family was real, but the threat of the scavengers hung in the air like heavy smoke. Word of Ethan's promise to stay with Lyra and Mira had spread across the ruins. Some people whispered, others shouted. Most stayed away from the house. But not everyone. As the sun rose, the sound of boots echoed on the empty street. Mira peered through a crack in the door, holding her breath. She saw them, 8 scavengers, red bandanas tied tight, faces hard and angry. They carried sticks and pipes, their leader holding a bottle of fire in one hand. "Today's the day," Ethan whispered. He looked at Lyra and squeezed her hand. "No matter what, we stay together." The scavengers stopped outside, their leader raising his voice. "Human, alien lovers, come out. This is your last warning." Ethan stood tall, but his heart beat fast. Mira and Taro hid behind Lyra, who put her arms around them. Ethan stepped outside, closing the door gently behind him. Rain dripped from the roof, washing mud over his boots. "I'm not leaving my family," Ethan called. "If you want to hurt someone, hurt me, but let the others go." The leader laughed, cruel and cold. "You think you can change things here? Humans and aliens, never. You break our rules, you pay." But something was different today. From nearby alleys and ruined doorways, shadows moved. Old faces, aliens and humans, emerged quietly watching. The old alien who had brought bread yesterday limped forward, holding a stick. The human woman with herbs came, her arm in a sling. More joined, men and women, young and old, some hungry, some scared, but all tired of fear. The scavenger leader noticed. "Go home," he barked at the onlookers. But no one moved. Inside, Mira watched, heart pounding. Taro whispered, "We're not alone anymore." Ethan spoke, his voice steady. "We are a family, and we have friends. You can't scare everyone forever." The scavengers glared at the growing crowd. A few shifted nervously. The leader snarled, raising the bottle to throw, but the old alien stepped forward, blocking his path. "We're tired of being afraid." The old alien said, "If he stands with them, so do we." Others stepped forward too. More voices joined, stronger now. "No more threats, let them be. Family is family." For the first time, the scavengers looked unsure. One lowered his stick. Another backed away. The leader growled, but he was outnumbered. Ethan's heart filled with hope. He nodded at the old alien and spoke to everyone, voice ringing over the rubble. "This city can be rebuilt. Not with fighting, but with kindness. If a human and an alien family can survive together, so can we all." A slow silence fell, broken only by the sound of water dripping from broken roofs. Then the leader spat on the ground and turned away. "Fine, keep your broken house. We'll remember this." He and his men melted into the gray streets, their power broken for the first time. Cheers rose up, small but real. Lyra opened the door and ran to Ethan. Mira closed behind. Taro joined, and soon the four stood together, arms wrapped tight. Safe for the first time in many weeks, neighbors came forward, some shy, some crying, all relieved. They shared food, stories, and for the first time in a long time, laughter. The old alien hugged Mira. The human woman gave Taro a loaf of warm bread. The house was crowded and noisy, but filled with warmth. Days passed. The city began to heal. With Ethan's help, people fixed broken roofs and cleared streets. Lyra used her skill with herbs to treat the sick. Mira and Taro taught other children how to build alarms, how to make safe places. Slowly, hope spread from the little patched house to the whole neighborhood. One evening, as the sun set in a sky finally showing hints of blue, Ethan stood on the roof with Lyra. He watched Myra and Taro chase each other, laughing in the street. Below, Lyra leaned against him, her silver hand resting in his. "You gave us a family," she whispered. "You gave our people a future." Ethan smiled, feeling peace he hadn't known in years. "No, we did it together." Down below, Mira spotted them and called out, "Come on, Dad, race us." Lyra laughed and nudged Ethan. Together, they hurried down, joining the children, joining the new life they had built. In the ruins of Kerith, a new beginning had grown, a family not made by blood, but by choice, hope, and courage. Their story became a legend, whispered among both humans and aliens, a promise that peace and love could always bloom, even in the darkest places. And as stars filled the sky that night, Ethan knew their future would be bright because this family, built from desperation and danger, was now truly home.